What is up, guys? Welcome to Inner Alchemy. I'm your host, Sandal Roy. Some people like to call me Ishtar. You're free to call me that. So if you're one of my OG subscribers, you're probably watching this on YouTube. If you're new here, you could be watching me on any one of the platforms that I'm now streaming on. So, if you've been with me for a while, you'll know I took a little bit of a break, a 3-month break. I will explain some of the reasons for that. Obviously, with everything happening in the world right now, the end times agenda is ramping up. So it's been very, very challenging for all of us. I'm no exception to that. Many of you know I've been following very, very closely the events unfolding in the Holy Land. And yeah, it was extremely challenging for my light body. So I took a 3-month hiatus to kind of focus on my business, to regroup, relaunch my website. All new website is in the description box. Super excited to launch that. Please go take a look. I worked really hard on it. So those of you who've worked with me for quantum fieldwork sessions, I now have a more streamlined booking process, and I wanted to kind of relaunch this podcast with new branding and a new title as well. So today is just like an introduction to what to expect. If you've been with me for a while, you know about some of the stuff that we talk about here. There are some new upgraded codes, okay, that I'm going to be bringing through, especially around divine union and hieroskamos. Hieroskamos just means divine union or sacred union in Greek. So with that, I wanted to bring a new title for the podcast that's more in keeping with this new pivot that I'm going through. So really excited for all of you who are still here with me. And yeah, today's just a welcome and a summary of what to expect. So yeah, let me just have a drink of water before we get into it. How's everyone doing? I hope everybody's doing really, really well. Okay. So as you guys know, I've been speaking up for Palestine and the genocide that's been unfolding in Gaza since October 7th. And it kind of basically has dominated my content almost entirely for the last year. And as a result of it, I was warned that doing this work, the Oracle field work, and kind of bringing these ascension codes to humanity at this time, the teachings around divine union, around womb healing, just bringing people back to God, was going to attract demonic attack. And I was kind of prepared for it a little bit, but I think I wasn't quite prepared for exactly how intense it was going to be. So, I've been suffering some major demonic attack over the last year. This is not to kind of paint myself as a victim. Obviously, it's nothing compared to what people in Gaza and in Lebanon and in Syria now as well are currently enduring. And I am going to continue to speak up about what's happening there. Nothing's going to stop me. But, many of you who have been speaking up may notice also that you've been getting targeted, shadow banned, and also demonically attacked. And so demonic attack can manifest in many different ways. Obviously, the way that a lot of people understand it is that you might have some, you might experience trolling and people, coming into your inbox, threatening you, who are basically possessed by dark forces, who are trying to silence you and scare you. But it can also take the form of things like, technology malfunctioning. I've spoken about this in previous videos, how demonics and kind of non-physical dark entities can hijack technology. And, I've shared content where pastors will actually talk about, things like, when they've dealt with entity removals and spirit possession, that they'll they'll film what's happening, the interaction of what's happening. And then they'll find that certain very notable pieces of the tape have been silenced and things like that. So I have to be very, very careful now with like technology when I'm making notes. For example, I've got all my notes here for everything I'm going to talk about today, which I usually file on like a notes app. I remember when I did my first podcast on speaking about Palestine, which was over a year ago, I was doing it on Evernote. Okay, I'm going to put Evernote on blast right now. And Evernote always saves your notes automatically. I made all these notes talking about, you know, Zionism and the Messianic agenda. And when it came for me to actually record the video, and, you know, I'd made these notes over several days, and it was a lot of work and a lot of research that I've been doing, the note had completely disappeared, which has never, ever happened to me before. So now I'm having to like back up my notes. You know, they can only do so much. They can't completely stop you from what you're doing. You have to be persistent and you have to persevere. Okay, so they will put obstacles in your way. You know, I've had, many of you know that I was living in Mexico at the time, and I had a lot of issues. I've had a lot of issues with the Mexican kind of bureaucratic system, the postal system, and you know, they have like a electronic digital invoicing system, which is kind of scary to think about. A lot of countries are wanting to roll this out, where basically every exchange of money that happens between two corporate entities, has to be tracked on a digital ledger, almost like a blockchain. So it's all part of the Great Reset, where everything's kind of becoming digitized and we're all being tracked and traced and monitored. So, you know, I had some issues with that. So, and then demonic attack can also happen it can work through people's wounds, even if those people don't actually really know that they're being hosted by dark forces who are attacking you, and they may not actually normally have a personal vendetta against you. If they have wounds and leaks and tears and ruptures in their light body, that dark forces are getting into, those dark forces, if they're against what you're doing, and many of us who are awakening to the one, to the prime creator God source, and leading each other back home, are being attacked in that way. So it's really, really important to be very careful about who you're allowing in your sphere of influence and who you're allowing to be close to you. Okay, I've been getting extremely discerning with who I allow into my inner circle over the last year. Okay, I have I have a no tolerance for bullshit, for people who are Zionist sympathizers or people who are not awake to the agenda. I'm just getting really, really clear now on all of that, and I have been very rewarded for that as well. Obviously it had to get to a point where it's getting so bad, and I was getting so attacked by people in my life who were not submitted to God, and who were leaking energy, and who weren't working on themselves, and it was obviously leaving me vulnerable to attack, because I also was, you know, leaking energy and not having good boundaries. So now I have very tight boundaries. I'm very serious about doing this work, and so that requires me to be very pristine about who I allow close to me. Okay, and I encourage all of you to do the same. So with new podcast, new name, new upgraded codes and teachings, new branding, and new sponsors as well, okay? Because we're going to need to be resourced in these times. We know there's a cost of living crisis. In order for me to do this work, I need to be supported. I hope you will all continue to support the channel and support some of these sponsors. I will be bringing you, obviously, sponsors that you will be interested in hearing from. People who are providing goods and services that will benefit and upgrade your life in different ways. So, you know, I'll be doing promoting my own offerings to you guys, and I'll also be promoting other people's goods and services. So I'm really excited to bring those through to you as well. Okay, so let's go to the first bullet point. Okay, so basically, speaking for Palestine kind of got me very demonically attacked, and it turned my life completely upside down. And I will be going into detail, maybe not everything publicly, maybe some of it will be revealed in some of my more intimate containers in my women's Facebook group, for example, or in sort of paid containers, like, you know, some of the grid work webinars that I will be offering. I've done 1 or 2 of them already, because I want y'all to understand that this is going to be happening to some of you who are kind of stepping forward into your mission and taking up a little bit more space and serving the divine plan, that people who are not doing their work are going to come for you, and they're going to try and I'm not saying that people are going to consciously attack you, but there are dark forces who are working through people who will try and take you down, and you need to be prepared for that. Okay, let's not make any bones about that. Let's adjust this lighting a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so basically, despite the demonic attack that I went through, it actually cleared out everything in my life that was blocking me from accessing my highest timeline. Okay, what have I always said? God will use everything bad that happens to serve the divine plan. Okay, so everything fell apart, and then everything came together in beautiful divine unification. Okay, many of you know, who've been following me, have seen that I've recently come into divine union after clearing a false union that I was in, and so all upgraded codes are going to be coming forth on, you know, karmic interfacing and how to clear it and how to get into union with your true divine beloved that God has for you. So yeah. So, you know, obviously, why is Palestine important? Okay, obviously those people who've been researching it will know that the agenda is bigger than just the borders of occupied Palestine. Okay, the Zionists have been planning to expand the territory into Greater Israel, and that plan is, you know, very much manifesting at a very accelerated rate right now. A couple of years ago, if you ever spoke about Greater Israel, you were called an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist, but, you know, now it's you know, it's open, you know, it's openly being talked about by Netanyahu and his cabinet. And, you know, obviously now we're seeing the Israeli occupation forces expanding into Syria as well. And, you know, Syria, I think people are a little bit confused about Syria, because obviously there's a lot of obfuscation around what's been happening in Syria for many years. Okay, Syria was basically a proxy war. After, you know, they kind of used US forces to gain control of the region through their war on terror in like Iraq and Afghanistan. People became wise to their agenda and started seeing through the bullshit and saw it for what it is, as Western imperialism. And so they had to employ some slightly more sophisticated methods in Syria, which on the surface was a kind of a territorial battle between the US and Russia for the Syria's oil and an oil pipeline that they wanted to build through Syria. But on a bigger level and more esoteric level, firstly, it's part of their plan for Greater Israel. Mount Hermon is quite spiritually significant for the end times agenda. It's said to be, you know, the first mountain that is viewed by the Israelites upon their return to Zion. So, you know, control of, and obviously they took control of the Golan Heights, which was Syrian sovereign territory. So when did they take control of that? I think it was 2006. I could be wrong. I might have to fact check that. Feel free to fact check me in the comments. So exactly what year they took control of the Golan Heights. So yeah, that's an illegally occupied territory that Israel has seized. So yeah, you know, people celebrating, you know, they took out Assad, he's a dictator, blah, blah, blah. Y'all, you do understand, right? Okay, Assad was on CIA payroll, okay? I don't know whether he still is or not, but many of these leaders in global south countries are puppet leaders that have been put in position by the deep state. Okay, Assad was a CIA man, Saddam Hussein was a CIA man. The Dalai Lama is also on CIA payroll, or was on CIA payroll. I talked about that in my previous video on the Substance Over Style podcast, on my YouTube channel. If you search for the Dalai Lama and the distortion of the Dakinis, I actually channel quite a lot about what happened with some of these Dakinis who were basically essentially priestesses initiated into the feminine mysteries, similar to what was, that was obviously in East Asia, but it was very similar to what was being taught in the priestess temples in the MENA region. So where was I going with this? So Assad is their puppet. Okay, now I don't know if he went rogue or not. It's possible that he went rogue, and so that's why they've been trying to take him out. That's what I think happened with Saddam Hussein when he tried to get a better oil price for Iraqis. They decided to depose him. But it's possible that he was always that it's all been completely scripted, and he's just doing as he's told. Okay, and that the part of the plan was for him to just leave now because it's time for them to take Syria. So let's not be naive. Let's not be stupid. Okay, look at the bigger picture. Okay, yes, you can also apply nuance and things like that. People are saying, oh well, Assad attacked his own people with chemical weapons. Well, firstly, I'm highly skeptical of that, because Bashar al-Assad was forced to surrender all his chemical weapons in 2013. And obviously the chemical weapons attack happened, I believe, in 2017 outside a White Helmet facility as well. And if you don't know, the White Helmets were, painted as like these heroes that were going and saving children. But there was quite a lot of footage that was showing them staging these rescue operations using the same children again and again. And a lot of footage showing them, killing and massacring, executing the Free Syrian Army soldiers, and then pissing on their bodies and stuff like that, which is obviously a war crime. And they were basically a Western funded militia. Like, they weren't like this rescue group that were just going in and rescuing children. They were a full-on militia that was participating in the proxy war in Syria. Also with ISIS were fighting against the Free Syrian Army, which is Bashar al-Assad's government army, his armed forces. So you gotta look at the bigger picture. Like, if Bashar al-Assad is such a bad guy, and I'm not saying he's a good guy, why is he fighting ISIS, who we're told are some radical Islamist militias who are chopping people's heads off and stuff? So I've already posted, and I posted in October, that ISIS is basically Israeli secret intelligence services. Talked about it in one of my early podcasts on Palestine, on the Substance Over Style podcast. Basically, ISIS have never attacked Israel. They once attacked Israel by accident and then apologized. Okay, their fighters have been treated in Israeli hospitals. Okay, Mehdi Hassan actually interviewed who was it? I think the Israeli defense minister, on NBC, to ask him why he'd had ISIS fighters treated in Israeli hospitals. And they said, oh, well, we believe, to be kind to our enemies, and that's why. And he was just like, okay, would you have Al-Qaeda fighters? And they were like, no. And he openly said no. And he said, why is that? Because we have a different account with Al-Qaeda. Okay, Al-Qaeda are a different US-backed militia. Okay, Al-Qaeda basically means the database. And it was a database that was coined by Robin Cook, when Robin Cook was a foreign secretary in the British Parliament. It was a database of Mujahideen fighters that they would use to fight the Soviets. Okay, now there's so much more that I can say about this whole region that I have unearthed. in my research over the last year. If you've been with me before, you'll know I was planning to do a webinar on the 12 tribes of Israel. That is a gigantic body of work. Okay, so it's taken me a lot longer than I thought maybe I could just research it in a couple of weeks and then come up with a webinar, but it's a huge rabbit hole. So it's going to be a bigger project, and I will announce it when it's ready, but I will be dropping you tidbits of information because it's really fascinating for understanding the entire region, and not just the entire region, but global politics and global history all over the world. Okay, it's a massive, very, very deep rabbit hole that will connect a lot of dots for you. So I encourage you all to research that topic on your own independently, and then when it's ready I will announce when that offering will be available, and those of you who want to come and learn it from me can come and learn it from me, and I hope you will join me for that. So another reason, from a deeper, more esoteric perspective, why Palestine is important. Okay, so according to Lisa Renee, those of you who are trained in kind of Colontics and ascension mechanics will be familiar with Lisa Renee. She is a very gifted oracle, field worker, clairvoyant, that has channeled a lot of the Earth's history, the history of the planet and everything that's kind of happened here. And yeah, she has some very, very high level information on her website and her podcast, Energetic Synthesis. So I do recommend you check her out. So according to her, the Grail Point is seated on Temple Mount. Okay, it's the 12th planetary stargate. And what the Grail Point is basically where Christ consciousness was seeded onto the planet, okay? And kind of makes sense because obviously we know Yeshua, Isa, however you want to call him, Jesus, was from that region and from that area. Okay, so what's happening at the moment is that frequency of the Christ masculine is emanating from that grid point. It's emanating through the ley lines. We're all seeing it. Everybody who's been watching what's happening in Palestine can see that frequency of the Christ masculine emanating from those fields. Okay, we're literally seeing how Palestinian men are digging out children and their family members from the rubble. The journalists are putting their life on the line to bring us the truth. If that's not more Christed, I don't know what it is. Okay, we're seeing such heroism and such beautiful examples of pure divine masculinity, and obviously they don't want us to see that. That's why they're trying to shadow ban everyone who's exposing it and targeting us and branding us terrorists and terrorist sympathizers and all of that stuff. Okay, they don't want the soul of Sophia, that is us, okay, the human collective, all of us women in particular, to remember that frequency. Okay, that's why they're also running at the same time a lot of gender warfare. Okay, a lot of these frequencies of, men are all trash and they're all perverts and they're all like, a lot of the stories that are proliferating right now, the stories of violence against women, a lot of them are, I'm not saying that they're not real. Okay, I'm saying that they're orchestrated and scripted. Okay, they're usually orchestrated. They often are real by these satanic fucks who have orchestrated this scenario, like the story of the model put in the blender, or the French woman and her husband who was horrific gang rape. A lot of these events that you'll hear about, if you just run the numerology on them, you'll see the scripted agenda behind them. A lot of them have secret society connections, and they're part of these satanic cults. But they're trying to perpetuate this idea that this is how everyone is, this is how we all are. And to a degree, they're not wrong, because they've been trying to poison humanity and poison our sexuality and our relational templating, to cause relational and sexual misery for the purpose of, planetary control and enslavement. If they can get us to stop breeding with each other. You know, they can cause a decline in the population. It's basically mass global. It's a genocidal tactic, basically, against the whole of humanity. So that's definitely one agenda that's playing out and we need to be aware of. So that's also why I talk about divine union here on this channel, because most of what we're seeing is most of what the manifestation of what we're seeing on the planet, all these wars and conquests and, you know, capitalism, late stage capitalism and all of that stuff are polarity imbalances. Okay, they're imbalanced reptilian masculine forces raping the divine feminine that is, you know, manifested as Sophia Gaia, the planet, or the plane, you know, and humanity. Okay, we are fractals of her. We are fractals of Sophia Gaia. We are feminine. We have humanity has a feminine polarity. Obviously, men have more of a masculine polarity in comparison to women and children. But in general, because we are creation and we're not creator, we have a feminine polarity. Okay, so yeah, got to talk about the whole QAnon timeline. Obviously, a lot of people in the awakening community have been hijacked by the QAnon psyop, thinking that Donald Trump is going to come and save us all and, you know, drain the swamp and take out the deep state because he says a few nice things. Obviously, he is very much part of the club. He's one of them. He's just another globalist. And he's, you know, whenever they want, basically, we have been like, everybody who's kind of saying, oh, yes, this is our savior, you know, Trump, RFK, you know, obviously, I understand, you know, that people, I to a degree, okay, no, I don't understand, okay, maybe a little bit with RFK, because I think, you know, when all the medical tyranny was happening, we were so Stockholm syndromed that, you know, seeing somebody in a position of power saying all the right things just felt really good. It was like, wow, somebody who's in a position to do something about this is on our side. And that's how Stockholm syndromed humanity has been in, because obviously getting together, getting organized to create alternative systems so that we can empower ourselves, so that we're not subject to global tyranny and enslavement at the hands of these elites, is hard. Okay, it's going to be hard, it's going to be dangerous. As we've seen, many people have given their lives, okay, to free humanity, and a lot of people are scared to do that. They're scared to step up and step forward and reclaim their power and take the risk to do that, because you are kind of putting your head above the parapet, and that kind of makes you a target. So I understand why people are kind of like going yay, like hoping for a savior, but ultimately you have to be your own savior. Okay, nobody's coming to save you, and if we want to see a change in this world, we have to kind of start, you know, putting on your big girl pants, your big boy pants, and getting organized with people in your community to take back your power. So I'm going to be sharing resources to help us do that. We're going to be bringing on some experts, because I don't think I can bring you all the information that I would like to in the time that is available, because obviously this shit is really ramping up now and accelerating. So it's really, really time for us to get organized and start collaborating and working together with each other. So yeah, when it comes to the whole Trump QAnon thing, y'all need to understand the Hegelian dialectic. Okay, problem, reaction, solution. Okay, they create the problem, y'all have a reaction, and then they come in with the solution. So that's what the QAnon timeline is. It's basically them coming in with the savior to give you your solution to what you've been asking for. It's much more sophisticated, because they are now talking about the deep state. They are talking about the trafficking, and we didn't think that they would disclose that kind of information at this point, but that's how they get your trust. Okay, and you're also going to see a lot of people in the truth and freedom and awakening communities who are also part of the club. So learn how to identify them. I'm going to admit, okay, I was wrong about some people, and over the last year many things have been revealed to me. And I'm going to be sharing some ways and techniques that you can use to identify whether somebody is trustworthy or not. And I can hear some people saying, well, Sanal, haven't you, worked in the industry? Don't you have celebrity friends? Wasn't your grandfather in politics? And yes, those things are all true. That doesn't make me part of the club. I understand that some people might be skeptical of that. We can talk about it a little bit more, okay? Because I've had, some people, get a little bit funny about me using, the one eye symbolism and things like that. I don't want to get into it too much in this video, but we will talk about it and about my feelings about that. And I know that some people have different feelings about it. You might have seen me having back and forth with people in the comment sections about things like that. So we'll talk about it. Yeah, I mean, I think if I was part of the club, I definitely wouldn't need to disappear every couple of weeks or every couple of months. I would be able to be much more on it because somebody would be funding me to do this. But unfortunately, there isn't anyone like that. And sometimes I have to take breaks to do modeling jobs or, to pick up some extra work so that I can be supported. But, we're bringing sponsors and, now that I've got my website launched, I hope that you guys will book sessions with me so that I can make more of this type of content. Okay. So what else are we talking about? Yeah, I mentioned Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, Stockholm Syndrome is so bad that we need a hero. Yeah, so we need to wake up from the whole Stockholm Syndrome and reclaim our sovereignty. So I'll be sharing, techniques that are kind of external techniques, so like common law sovereignty stuff, and then also ascension mechanics stuff. So like, for example, with my course, Reclaim Your Crown, that will kind of help you stand in your sovereignty with a bit more confidence because you've done the inner work as well. We'll be doing stuff to work on your inner and your outer, and bringing experts on to talk about all of that. So natural law, healing modalities, all of that stuff. Okay, so one of my focuses is going to be talking about the mystery school teachings, okay? The mystery school teachings from the Hiros Gamos temples, okay? The temples of Ishtar, the temples of Inanna in ancient Sumeria, ancient Babylon, okay? I have been channeling what happened with those temples for some time now. Some of you who have, watched my previous transmissions will know, that I've sprinkled it in throughout many podcasts. Probably the one where I talked about it the most extensively is the Dalai Lama video, the Dalai Lama and the distortion of the Dakinis, the Suck My Tongue video, right? And I've been shown so much more in my work with clients, because generally clients who are drawn to me and drawn to my energy, they obviously have some, priestess coding or the priest coding, warrior, king, Christ masculine coding. So, there's been a lot that's been channeled about our ancient history and the codes that were basically stolen from us, distorted. How those temples ended up becoming brothels, how they created sexual misery on this planet, and gender warfare, and how we can reclaim those lost teachings so that we can free ourselves and all get into loving divine unions with our divine beloveds, okay? So there's going to be some really exciting codes coming in around that. That's what I'm most excited about, and that was what inspired the new title of Inner Alchemy. Because it is all about those priestess temples and what really happened there, okay? There were a lot of very sad things, very distorted things that happened in the priestess temples, okay? And that caused a lot of sexual misery and suffering for humanity as a result. And we're going to heal all of that and take it back to the old school, okay? Yes, and so along with that, we're going to be talking about false unions and karmic interfacing, okay? Also known as reptilian interfacing. If you're coming from my mentors community, Emily Joy Harris, who trained me in quantum field work, I tend to call it karmic interfacing or archonic interfacing. That kind of feels more accurate for me based on how I see it in the field. So these are interfacing systems that will tag you to somebody who's not your true divine beloved, okay? This is one of the things that I'm here to tell you now that I've learned over the last year. You have one divine beloved, and that person is your twin soul, okay? They are part of your angelic oversoul. A lot of the new age teachings around twin flames are completely false and contribute, they're high level psyops that will contribute to sexual and relational misery. Okay, there are organic teachings around divine union, and I'm hopefully going to bring, well, not hopefully, I am going to bring them to you, okay, at this time. And it does involve a lot of healing our sexual distortions, healing our grief and our betrayal wounds, and our beliefs around, feeling abandoned by God, feeling abandoned by the masculine, or betrayed by the masculine, betrayed by the feminine, and mummy daddy issues. Like, we're going to go deep, okay? So I hope you're going to join me for that. Obviously, I'm already offering that work to my clients, my one-on-one clients. So, in terms of offerings, I still have my 5-session package, which is an amazing, and very affordable way to work with me. The 10-session package is actually, which I started doing a few months ago. I felt like some clients really needed to go deeper. The 10-session package is actually better value, and you'll get a bigger transformation. So check those out in the on my website. And we can definitely work on your inner union principle and find out what's blocking you from your divine union. Healing wound trauma. Okay, this is going to be so essential, because so many women are waking up at this time. Okay, and I'm seeing, like, just the feminine collective en masse is waking up and no longer accepting the okie doke from the lower masculine behavior, fallen masculine. Okay, a lot of men have unfortunately been given into fallen masculine behavior. Obviously women have as well. There are also wounded feminine expressions, toxic feminine expressions. We're going to be talking about all of that, and how, as we start to clear the womb and heal the womb and repair the womb heart architecture, and hear the Chrysophy union template and come into divine unification with ourselves and with Creator, you won't really need to buy into any of this, like, dark psychology stuff and dark game that a lot of women are getting into. Obviously, I understand why women get into that stuff. Obviously, it comes from having to deal with some of the worst examples of male behavior. So, what we're seeing collectively is we're seeing that as women are starting to level up and raise their standards, certain men are also employing dark game and dark psychological tactics to mimic the true divine beloved in order to get access to that womb energy. So, when you're on the Hieros Gamos journey, a lot of women would just naturally go through, not just women, men will also naturally start going through a process of celibacy, okay, because it clears out any distortions in your field and gets you right with God, so that you can access your higher union timeline, and that can come in much faster, okay? And the reason for this is not just so that you can experience, like, ecstatic lovemaking every day and just be loved like God intended you to be loved. It's so that the two of you can actually do your divine mission here on earth, okay? That is the main reason why these unions are being so targeted, because the divine unions are mission focused. Each divine union has the architecture to do incredible, world shattering work on this planet. Like, the couples that I know that are in divine union are doing incredible work for the collective together. But they, a lot of these codes around the polarity stuff is very distorted. I'm not saying that you can't learn things from them. I do think, I also went through initiation around polarity principles, and, y'all have been with me for that whole journey. And I'm going to be sharing some more codes and some of my opinions for where I am now that I've balanced out my energies a lot more. We're going to be talking about, masculine healing. So, healing porn trauma. Obviously, many men were... we talk a lot about child sexual abuse that women have been through, and how that affects our relational templates and our ability to trust the masculine. We haven't talked enough about what men have been going through on this planet. So things like, very early sexual trauma, like genital mutilation, circumcision, things like that. Exposure to pornography at a young age is child sexual abuse. Let's be very clear about that, okay? If you were exposed to pornography and you were under the age of consent, you were sexually abused as a child, okay? So dealing with that trauma and dealing with the shame and what it did to your consciousness around sexuality and what it did to your relationship to the feminine is going to be really, really important for healing and eventually getting into divine union with your beloved. So for women who've suffered early womb trauma from child sexual abuse or early exposure to porn, being objectified at a young age, or constantly being fed a stream of sexualized content telling them who they need to be a girl, to be hot, but suppress their actual divine feminine qualities like their care, compassion, their wisdom, their intuition, those gifts are blocked if you don't have access to that womb wisdom. Okay, if you've got all betrayal implants shutting down your womb and just causing feminine wounding, because of these regressive representations of what the feminine is, then it actually does shut down your gifts as a woman, okay? Because you're not, your Sophianic energy is not running through your body in the way that it's supposed to, okay? It's running through your body in a very distorted Lilith type way, okay? And we're going to be talking about Lilith and other types of succubi. Yes, okay. I've got here in my notes, everyone who was talking about the grand solar flash, or the shift to 5D and light beings coming on ships to kind of save us all. I've noticed that some of those people got real quiet when the whole genocide in Gaza started. I mean, maybe I just don't see their content as much. But yeah, I think it's a little, it's just funny. It's just funny that I didn't, there were people who were talking about it a lot, and I noticed that they actually stopped talking and kind of pulled back a lot when that started happening. Because how do you keep saying that we're shifting into new earth when we're now having to watch a live stream genocide and see children with their heads missing and their brains missing and things like that? So, obviously some people are still so brainwashed by the Zionist agenda that they're finding a way to justify what's happening or to spiritually bypass what's happening. And, those people are going to get karma served to them. I'm sorry to say, I'm actually not sorry to say. We all will have to, okay? We'll all have to atone for every violation of natural law. Okay, so just briefly touching on race riots happening in lots of places, and obviously we're seeing with the Messianic agenda that's unfolding, there's become a lot of nationalism popping up in different places because of mass migrations that are happening all over the world, with the destruction of destroying certain countries, destroying them through bombing or economically destroying them, in many places, not just in the global south. Obviously countries in the global south have been struggling for a really long time, but even the west now is also having issues with late stage capitalism, cost of living crisis, jobs not able to cover living expenses and things like that. So we're seeing mass migrations and things like that, and we're also seeing a lot of just race baiting and things like that. So obviously we're seeing the UK has been huge with all the race riots that were happening recently, and racial stoking of racial division. Tommy Robinson, I'll just quickly point, Tommy Robinson is a Hasbara shill, okay? The English Defence League is basically a spin-off of the Jewish Defence League, okay? He's on Zionist payroll. So he's been pushing the whole Islamophobic narrative as part of this agenda that we're now seeing, okay? To kind of take over, for the Zionists to take over the Middle East and have Greater Israel and have that be the center of the New World Order with the third temple in Jerusalem, and rule everyone under the Noahide laws, okay? And it's going to be total digital enslavement with the mark of the beast. Obviously Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the White Hats, they're going to be announcing that, and that's their timeline. That's what they're here to usher in, okay? So it's very much a Zionist Luciferian agenda. Obviously real Jews have nothing to do with this, okay? That's why you'll always see the Haredi, the Hasidic, the Orthodox community at the Palestine marches, okay? We love them, okay? The guys and they generally are Ashkenazi, so they're not descended from Jacob. They're not the original 12 tribes, but that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. They're anti-Zionist anyway. Some of them do live in Palestine, and they get into, they're very brutalized. I've shared videos where the Israeli occupation forces will be very violent to that community, because that community is anti-Zionist. They don't believe that, they consider it blasphemy to accelerate the coming of the Moshiach, of the Messiah. Okay, you're supposed to trust in God, and you're supposed to follow the Mosaic law, the law of Moses, and then the Messiah will come, according to their beliefs. I'm not Jewish, so I don't believe in that. But I can definitely respect that they believe that, you got to follow God, you don't steal, you don't kill, you follow the law of Moses, and then the Messiah will come, and then the Israelites can return to Zion peacefully. And however they believe, whether you agree with it or not, they're very against what's happening. Okay, so I'm not saying that this is Jews doing this. Okay, this is a particular sect of Messianic nutters, radical far right Jews who are doing this. Okay, Chabad Lubavitch, for example, is a sect of Messianic Judaism. Putin has converted to Chabad Lubavitch. Maybe he was always Chabad Lubavitch. Trump is Chabad Lubavitch. A lot of your world leaders, both in the West, also in the Middle East, serve this Messianic plan and are part of these Messianic sects. Some of them are crypto Jews, like, for example, the Saudis. Saudi royal family are crypto Jews. So they are serving the Messianic agenda. Yes, another place where we're seeing race riots, India. Obviously, India, far-right Hindu nationalism, going and killing and destroying places of worship belonging to other religious minorities, particularly Muslims. They're very Islamophobic in India. We're seeing that more and more. And there's been a lot of violence in certain tribal regions, northern tribal regions of India, against, Christians and other non-Hindu communities. Okay, even some of my friends in India who are Hindu themselves are scared and are absolutely against what these crazy right-wing nutters are doing. Bangladesh also. So we've seen that Bangladesh is majority Muslim. So there's been some religious violence against the Hindu minority communities. Okay, so it's not all just one way and violence against one community. It's different communities attacking each other. Okay, so they are going to continue. The elites are going to continue through the mainstream media, the propaganda outlets, to push racial division, religious division, and get people fighting amongst themselves. Okay, so I'm obviously in the UK right now. Obviously, I understand people who are suffering from a cost of living crisis can feel a certain type of way about people, economic migrants coming from other countries and being taken care of by with their taxes. I understand people being upset about that, but what I will say is you're not going to stop the elites from fulfilling their prophecy, okay, because this is part of their prophecy. This is what they're going to do, and you have much more in common with that person who's risking life and limb and his family's safety to come over and seek a better life in a country that he was told was prosperous, than you do with the people in Downing Street and in the Houses of Parliament. Okay, so it's time for people to bang their heads together, get organised, and find some common interest and find some common shared values, and get organized. Okay, because this is a common man against the elites now. Okay, I'm not buying into any of this divide and conquer nonsense between different religious groups. Okay, y'all know I'm a syncretist. I study comparative theology. I see so much truth and so much beauty in every single religion, and also some distortions as well. Okay, and that's you can use anything about somebody's religion to hate on them and to discriminate against them, or to commit genocide against them, and you could do it to any single group that you decide needs to be eliminated. It doesn't ever make bigotry or ethnic or religious discrimination okay. You can have a problem with someone's religion. I don't have a problem with somebody having a problem with somebody's religion, but being hateful towards a group because they follow a certain religion, I think is it's a little bigoted. Like, let's leave that, behind in the past, okay? Let's move forward and find where we have common interest and get organised and work together. We need a lot more interfaith dialogue if we're going to survive these times. Another thing that we're seeing is a lot of vaccine adverse events. A lot of those adverse events are now we're seeing those manifest at a much higher accelerated rate than before. Turbo cancers, for example. I know several people, many of you may know several young people that died suddenly after, taking a booster, or just because of, the cumulative effect of those micro tears and micro clots, stop their heart, for example. So I've noticed that some people haven't really put two and two together and realized that it's because of the vaccines. But obviously we're going to be looking at the latest data. I might bring on some experts. If you have anybody that you want to recommend who might want to make an appearance and talk to us about what's been happening and accountability procedures. Obviously, I've noticed over the last year, I watched the documentary from the Children's Health Defense, which is obviously Robert F. Kennedy's organization. They are doing some good work, and I do believe that the people working for that organization have their hearts in the right place, most of them. It's just sad that we have to rely on these organizations that are, run by people who are compromised. But that's kind of where we are right now. That doesn't mean that we can't, create our own organizations. Obviously, this is one of the reasons why I am so inspired by the pro-Palestine movement, because if you really want to know how to resist and fight back against the system and create organizational systems and structures, look at what Palestinians have been doing for the last 76 years, okay? And try and go to some meetings, go and check out some of the organizations and participate and learn and take notes, okay? Because looking at how Indigenous people, this is why I also talked about the Zapatistas when I was in Oaxaca, how the Zapatistas organized themselves and took control of the Chiapas region is really inspiring. And, just studying all these kind of indigenous resistance movements, I think is going to be very, very educational for all of us, going forward. If we're going to do this awakening and we're going to get through it, we have to start listening to the elders, the people that are connected to the ancestral wisdom that comes through their lineages. And because that is the feminine, okay, that is the divine feminine. As I said at the beginning of this is all caused by polarity, imbalance, and womb harvesting that's been happening on this planet since the beginning of time. Please read the Gnostic texts, okay? Read the Rape of Eve. You'll understand what's been happening on this planet since the beginning. And it will all make sense, and it will help you understand why we're here and what we can do to get free and how to go back to God, because that's ultimately what it's all about. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Bringing lots of experts on. If you have people that you want to suggest, then let me know. You can let me know in the comments section, or I'll also have a contact form on my website as well. I highly recommend that you contact me that way. So I hope that you'll stick with me for that, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace out, guys. One love.